Professor Asah Asante, Dr. Kwame Asah Asante has joined us. He's joining us via Zoom as we're doing the newspaper review. Doc, thank you very much for joining us this morning here on GHOne Television. Good to have you.
Good morning, friends, and good morning to our viewers.
Yes, and we're just going through the newspaper headlines, and obviously a lot of the headlines are capturing the events that have unfolded in the last couple of days as we've gone through the election. Let's get a comment from you, your initial reaction to all that has happened, because we know that you're a political watcher. You also even did some research, right, yes. Prior to the elections about who was going to win or who was likely to win and all of that. So what has been running through your mind as the events have been unfolding in the aftermath of the election?
I realized that, in fact, I want to put it bluntly, I foresaw this coming.
Okay.
And you can attest to the fact that we did our research, and I shared with Ibrahim and other people within the media fraternity. We knew that MPP was going to lose, but the magnitude is what has really changed the game. But I knew definitely, in fact, I knew 2 years before this time that they were going to lose. People, who were close to me when we were doing analysis, I tell them, because of where I sit. So it didn't come to me as a surprise. No, it did not. But there are a number of factors and that explain this. And if I'm sure it's part of the conversation that we are going to have this morning, there are lots. And that is also a way to build a solid democracy that will be able to stand the test of time.
So what are some of these surprises for you, Dr. Asante? Some of the surprises for you, especially, with regard to Parliament, because we're seeing a landslide. People are calling it a tsunami in Parliament.
The surprise is now, I don't know whether the number is confirmed, the NDC seats that so far they've gained. Can you help me with the number of seats that is confirmed that the NDC has now? Well,
according to the NDC's Fifi Kwete, they have 185. Yes. According to Fifi Kwete, that's how much they have. But the EC has not come out with the full complements of how many seats the NDC has yet.
Let's work with
but assuming you are working, with the two-thirds majority that
of this conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. So 185, virtually almost absolute majority. Yeah. And that's a big one. I didn't expect them getting that much, but I knew that they would definitely carry the day with majority seats. But 185, yes. But that also sends a signal to people in the political space, and for that matter, the whole country as well, that there are things that the people of this country will not take, even though you can misbehave, even though you can be incorrigible. But when they decide to show you the door, it's there. And I'm not surprised that we've had that type of experience. Yes.
And how do you think that is going to affect Parliament, so to speak? Because there are going to be a number of new faces, completely new faces in Parliament. And a lot of the stalwarts within Parliament who have gone through the process of very conversant with parliamentary procedure, and what have you, are also going out of Parliament. And then there is this huge majority also for the incumbent, for the President, John Dramani Mahama, as he's coming in. What is going to be the effect, in your estimation, of all of these factors?
I'm not worried about, the numbers that are going out and the young people entering Parliament. That argument, I have never been in favor of that.
Right.
Nobody was born in Parliament. Right. We have to get it straight. We go there and then learn the rules, build capacity, and then we are able to discharge our duties as expected of us. That's it. So people think that, we are losing the experienced hands and all that. Yes, that is part of life. We will forever lose quality people in wherever we find ourselves. But with time, society is structured in such a way that it replenishes itself with the people. We'll look at people who started Parliament. let me bring you back to even this Fourth Republic. Giants like G.H. Mensah and co, they are gone. But the parliament continued to exist and do its work. Nobody went to parliament with the knowledge of what? Except a few, with the knowledge of parliamentary business. Most of them go there to learn, and they learn the rules. Let's use the Speaker of Parliament. The first time he went to parliament, I'm not sure he has ever been a parliamentarian before. But he went there, went through the rules, rose to become minority leader, majority leader, a minister, a deputy Speaker of Parliament, and then today a Speaker of Parliament. Who thought that he will be able to discharge his duties as he's discharging now? But just a matter of time, he has lived a very exemplary life in Parliament. He has performed to the highest level, and today the state has crowned him as a Speaker of Parliament, and that is the spirit behind any democratic enterprise, that we learn and then we grow out of that and become the best for our society. Right? So I am not worried at all. Those who come, even if we have a fresh faces in Parliament today, Parliament is an institution that has defined for itself mechanisms of equipping its members with the capacity and requisite knowledge and experience to be able to decide their work. So for me, it is not an argument at all.
Right,
even if we have no Parliament will continue to deliver.
Right, and there are people who are raising concerns about the 2/3 majority issue with regard to proper scrutiny and proper oversight over, the government, right? I spoke to Dr. Kwame Sapon-Asiedu earlier. We spoke to him, and he talked about the fact that this overwhelming majority could come with certain problems, because then it means President Mahama becomes the most powerful president, in the history of this Fourth Republic, with this commanding majority. It means that anything that the NDC government wants to do, they literally do not need the minority, and that could pose problems for, oversight, checks and balances, and what have you. Should we be worried about this?
We should not be worried about it. If you're saying, those who are saying that we should be worried about it, then they are forgotten about what? The good people of this country. The numbers in Parliament is a function of what happened on Saturday. This is what Ghanaians want. Simplicity, straightforward. So who can change that? Unless, of course, we are going to tell people that, please, let us not vote in such a way that we give one party more numbers in Parliament. Nobody knew this. Nobody can ever know this. We vote, and at the end of the day, what is the product out of our voting is the representation that we have in Parliament. If it is 2/3, so be it. If it is 1/3, so be it. But it is the duty of members of Parliament, which they know, to play their role as required of them. That's all. The oversight responsibility. If they check it, another Parliament will come, another election will come, and the tsunami will also rub off with them. So for me, this is what we have. We must do with it. How do we ensure that they don't abuse their power or extend the frontiers of their power? That is the question that we need to answer, and that we can do that outside Parliament. People like you and I, who are in the political space as actors within the sphere of politics, to put brakes on those people. We'll continue to do our work without fear or favor, and damn the consequence. We speak the way we speak forever, and that will shape their minds. Otherwise, they know that they will be preparing themselves for the exit, the next election. I'm sure this election has taught a lot of people that arrogance of power and that habit of trying to tell everybody that you have what it takes and that nothing will happen to you. Today, I'm sure that they are revising their notes and that the good people have taught them a lesson. And this lesson will remain with Ghanaian society. So I'm not worried the numbers that are in Parliament. They can go there with the majority and decide to misbehave. We will also misbehave towards them during the election by voting them out. A very simple matter.
Right, that's pretty interesting. Dr. Asah Asante there.
Yes, very, very interesting point you make there, Doc. Now, you've just touched on the issue of arrogance of power. What do you believe, I know it's early days yet, but what do you believe are some of the factors that led to this defeat that many have described as a tsunami?
One is what I've said, arrogance of power, right? That at a point in time, it got into their heads and they misbehaved. They will not listen to what wise counsel. They will not listen to what, vulnerable voices of the vulnerable people. They will not listen to anything reasonable to help them to champion the cause of what? Freedom, the cause of economic emancipation, and the rest of them. They turned deaf, what? It all fell on deaf ears. And today that's the price that they pay. In politics, it doesn't take a long time for you to what? See your smoothness level, if I may put it toward that way. And it's here. Another factor that also pushed them away is the issue of bad governance. Bad governance in the area of what? The economy. And that was the game changer. That really threw them out. You see, all things can happen. You can have messages and all that touching on every aspect of what? Our lives. But I tell you, if you fail to acknowledge that the economy does everything, I'm afraid you are out. And that they were oblivious of that fact. The economy. Because when the economy is healthy, it rubs off well with every sector. So economy is in good shape. Unemployment is addressed. Economy is in top shape. Infrastructure development is assured. Economy is in top shape. You can safeguard the health of the people and the rest of them. And once they got the economic mathematics wrong, they got everything wrong. And my worry was that the kind of pusher that they had, they will not listen to those who have knowledge in economics, telling them as to what to do. You remember when our economic difficulties started, and scholars in economics were telling them, please go on this trajectory, avoid this. This will lead you toward doom, and the rest of them. They came out with all manner of justification to rubbish them. But we found ourselves in IMF, and then conditions thereof. We are alive to it today. And we move on. You realize that, look, they lack the basic principle in governance that you govern with what? Integrity and honesty. If you are in difficulty, share your experience with those who give you power. And once they become part of the stakeholders to decide on the way forward, anytime that policy or decision you take is under attack, they will come to your rescue. They forgot that. And that, what for me, told me that, look, the principle of what good governance was thrown to the dogs, because one critical component of good governance is the issue of what? Stakeholder participation. You engage them and then you find solution. Once you engage them, they become part of the decision making. They will become part of what? Those who will defend the status quo when there is an attack. They forgot that. Misgovernance. So at the end of the day, we saw that the economy was misgoverned. And then we had IMF coming in with a big cane over our head. And for me, the annoying part of it is that anytime that IMF tell them, do this, do that, then they jump into the media. We've been able to meet IMF condition, this, that. We've been able to ask myself, would you need IMF with a big cane before your head before you do the right thing? And for me, they had their fingers bent in that direction. Another area of misgovernance is what? The issue of corruption. Anytime you talk, we've created Office of the Special Prosecutor, we've done that. That I will credit the government. You did all that. But where are the results? Transparency International report speaks volume of the fight against corruption, which this government lost ab initio. All right. The highest performance of the government, Nana Akufo-Addo's government, was the worst of Mahama, which they described his government as what? A more corrupt government. But the evidence speaks to the contrary. And here you are. They will not listen, they will not avail themselves to this knowledge which exists within the governance scheme. Okay. Here you are. Issue of what governance indicators went down relative to what? Human rights, relative to what? Justice, the media, and the rest. Read the U.S. State report on human rights violations in this country. All the fourth Republican government have suffered one problem or another, and it's still there. I would have thought that the government would have taken a cue to right some of the wrongs in the earlier report, so that we can have an improved one. The status quo remain. So for me, as the Hausa people say, Dukadaya is the same. The value is the same. Now, I move on to the
I know that there are more factors, but let me just catch you at this point in relation to that. Looking at the presidents we have had, in the Fourth Republic at least, how would you rate President Akufo-Addo?
If you say I should rate him,
yes.
I'll give him 3 over 10.
3 over what?
10 in the second tenure.
In the second
first
tenure.
tenure. Yeah, the first tenure I give him 8 over 10. But the second tenure, 3 over 10. Even
What?
that one I'm so generous.
And why 3 over 10 for the second term?
Why did he sink so low, giving the first tenure the great performance, amazing performance? All right, free SHS, improvement in the economy, and all that. And you see, Michael Kwe has written in his book, Politics in Ghana, 1972 to 79. There's a portion there. He said, when leaders are over-glorified, it gets into their head. They become swollen-headed, and it takes them off. That is what happened. They glorify the president, the regime so much that the second tenure, in spite of the difficulties that we have, he could not navigate his way through. And at the end of the day, he began to sink. And I was so surprised that, look, the same team you put, remember the president team that he put into office the first time was virtually the same. Yeah. So what changed? Every time, and you see, they were not honest enough. They will tell you that every problem they link it to Russia and Ukraine. What kind of statement is that? Are you honestly, if you do soul searching, as Aristotle said, is that the unexamined life is not worth living. If you do soul searching and assess yourself very well, can they say that all the economic malaise problems that we had, they don't have what? A hand in any part of it? That answer is what? Completely what? No, they had a hand in that. So you can't attribute all to Russia and Ukraine and all that. You are hiding behind something and doing the wrong things. And for me, that also caused them, because then they've prepared their minds that they were not going to listen to any wise counsel, even though a lot of knowledge abound in this country. There's a lot of what? There's an ocean of literature on how to safeguard the economy, but they did not see this. And every time I am happy that scholars, experts were out there every day speaking about it. You see, there's one thing with politics people don't know. Anytime society is sinking, those who are able to come and rescue society are intellectuals. They begin conversation. And this is one of the things that also eluded the government. And I blame it on the political actors. If you really want your government to survive, you always need somebody who is what we call a political officer, who will be able to look at him from not necessarily legalistic point of view, but political. And if you lose that person in your government, you are bound to collapse. Right? They lost that person. I don't know whether they had anybody like that, because I didn't see it. Let's look at some of the things that a political officer would have picked and helped the government on. Issue about public opinion issues. If a government is going down, it manifests in what? Public opinion issues. You see demonstrations. Look at close to the election. A lot of people were up in arms against the government in the area of what? Demonstrations. Right? Then you move to what? Strikes by what? Government officials, government workers. In a short time, you saw almost the labor front were up in arms against the government. And that didn't send a signal to the government
so
that they are not doing well.
Essentially, all the signs were on the wall for them, correct? All right.
Yes. And in this one, you need a political officer. Some people were arrested in the demonstration, and that's not the time to arrest anybody. A political officer will tell government, hold it. We can look at it this way. We can look at it this way. Look at issue of Galamsey. They will not listen to issue of Galamsey. People like it spoke so well, because I knew the dangers that were associated with that. Look, I said it. I don't know whether it's on your network that I said that what the effect that Dumso brought to the society or brought to the fore, we are going to experience the same thing relative to what Galamsey, because Galamsey has become, a real threat to our survival. Look at water bodies are being destroyed, farm lands are destroyed, arable lands are being poisoned, and our society is under the threat by what? This food that we eat. The heavy metals have found expressions in those foods and what? Crops and the rest of them. And we have a government that sits down, doesn't care a hoot about it. It amounts to what we call in political science the weak capacity of the state. What is state capacity? Is the ability of the state to make policy and enforce them. What is government policy towards what? The fight against Galamsey. And you saw the devastating effect on the electoral fortunes on MPP in Western region. that the figures we've got, if that one is the final one, out of 17 seats, they lost 15. Because the chiefs assembled and met John Mahama and told him that when you gain power, please deal with the issue of galamsey for us. A place like Shama, for instance, a fishing community, the water that they were depending on, the pra and the red, the pra was virtually red and getting into the sea and creating all manner of problems for them.
All right,
they virtually destroyed that. And the government, stay aloof to this. And obviously you saw that because of some of these issues, regional specific problems always feature in election choices. So areas where galamsey happen very well, you see the results. It will what? It's one of the contributing factors because their livelihoods were under threat and they had a government that did not care a hoot about it.
Right, and finally, I mean, we talk about the Western region, for example. The chiefs in the Western region, and people in the Western region would have us believe that Akufo-Addo has done well. And so a statue was erected in his honor in the Western region because he's done unprecedented development, to the Western region. So how do we reconcile that with, what you're just telling us about, the galamsey
The
issues
erection
and all
of the
of that?
statute was nothing but what? An example of what? How do you call it this thing in political science? As a populism, just to play to the gallery, right? In any case, you don't honor your own self. Because in what we heard, the initial story was that they put it up themselves and later justification that the chiefs came to claim that they did and all that. But even put that one aside, there is a certain history that we know in this regard didn't help anything. You remember, President Akufo honored himself with a medal gave to himself. Remember, the president is the fount of honor. He gives award to deserving citizens, not himself. So that is a no. But let's come to it, right? If the chief said that he had done the best to warrant that type of honor and all that. We also saw some chiefs who were telling John Mahama that come and deal with the issue of galamsey for us. So how do we also reconcile that? It tells you that, look, there was a certain hypocrisy on the part of this statement, whoever churned it out and all that. But the real issue is that, look at Western region. Do they have any problem? Regional specific problem, which was threatening the region up to date, is the issue of galamsey. And was the government able to address that? Was the government interested in addressing that? Government just only paid lip service to it. But I tell you, Western region is one of the food baskets of this country, and their whole life depend on agriculture, forest products, and the rest of them. So if there is any threat to this, and they tell government all along that do ABC and government will not do, they will always take a decision through election. Let me also add that if you look at Western region, part of their problems was infrastructure development, road networks and all that. It is true, I'll grant the government that credit, that they did some development there. But to a large extent, some places were left with weak road network and all that. And some complained. Shama and the rest came out strongly condemning that.
Okay. All right. Very well, Doc. We'll leave the conversation here, but you talked about the statue. A very quick one in a few seconds before we go. There are some youth who are planning to pull the statue down. Should the statue be left? Should the Akufo-Addo statue be left?
They should never go there. They should never. Nobody has that. No law permit them to remove that. It's an illegality. Anybody who goes there, the law will deal with that person. If the state want to remove it, they are not those individuals who are charged with that responsibility to do that. They should stay away and concentrate in their business and let the statue be there. If at a point in time the state want to maintain, fine. If they want to take it, the state want to take it off, but not any individual. They should be reminded of that. Very
well. Thank you very much, Dr. Asah Asante, for joining us here on the show this morning. We're so grateful to you. Dr. Asah Asante is a political scientist joining us, of course, he's a political scientist at the University of Ghana.